Hey folks, this is Kalani. We have a crazy amount of class changes coming our way. Patch 11.2 includes sweeping changes to almost every class and specialization, including some big reworks for a handful of specs like Frost and Unholy Death Knights, Shadow Priests, and Protection Warriors. There's also the potential for Demon Hunters to get a brand new spec themed after the Void, which would be very fitting as we head into a Void-dominated expansion. There's a lot to go over, so let's take a look at the huge class changes coming in patch 11.2. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. Let's kick things off by talking about one of the largest class changes you could ever hope for, a brand new specialization. There are several hints pointing towards Demon Hunters getting a new Void-themed spec sometime soon. The first little hint that we had was a new boss in the 11.2 raid. They were introduced in the 11.2 preview as a mysterious council of Demon Hunters. One looks to be very typically Havoc based, one seems to have the usual Vengeance glaives equipped, while the one in the middle definitely seems to be leaning more towards a Void vibe. If we look at the raid guide for this boss, we can actually see that is the case. One uses Havoc spells, one uses Vengeance spells, and then the third one uses Void based spells. So this boss is a Void Demon Hunter. That's our first clue. We also have this obviously very real screenshot that doesn't at all look fake that shows a third spec for Demon Hunters alongside Havoc and Vengeance, and it's called Entropy. It's Void based and uses a few different weapons apparently, maybe two-handed weapons, which would definitely be different. Now I personally wouldn't put too much stock in this leak, but Entropy could work as a name for the Void specialization for sure. Then we also have some data mined Void icons for things like Metamorphosis, as well as an actual Void Metamorphosis model, so at the very least we will see some Demon Hunters interacting with the Void in this patch, and these models will have to be used somewhere if they aren't given to the players as an option. Now it's not just data mining and random potential leaks though, we actually have a side story questline in the new 11.2 PTR that gives us a decent precedent for Demon Hunters using Void powers. There's a Void Elf and a Demon Hunter that have made a deal. If the Demon Hunter teaches the Void Elves the ways of the Illidari, then the Void Elf will help imbue the Demon Hunter with Void energy. If either of those experiments works, you get a Demon Hunter with access to Void powers. They're basically telling us this is going to happen. The only question is when do players get to take up the mantle of Void Hunter? Now I don't think this new spec will be a part of 11.2. There's already a lot going on with the new patch, and releasing a new spec alongside a new season could be a bit messy, but it would make for some great 0.5 or 0.7 content. We also have Legion Remix to look forward to, which will probably start up alongside 0.5 or 0.7 for this patch, and what better time to release a new Demon Hunter specialization than right before Legion Remix. It would be a great time to level up a Demon Hunter if you haven't already got one, and play the new Void-themed spec in the expansion where Demon Hunters were introduced. It's almost too perfect. We're also heading into a huge Void-themed expansion. Midnight is all about the Void, and so far we only have one specialization in the game that really interacts with the Void in any meaningful way, that spec being the Shadow Priest, so we're about due for a couple others. Now there is also the potential for this to be a cosmetic unlock option for Demon Hunters, so they can trade in their green fell visuals for the purple void visuals when keeping the rest of their kit exactly the same, kind of like the green fire deal that Warlocks got all those expansions ago. Or maybe we could be getting Void Elf Demon Hunters to add another race option into the mix, and these Void versions could be tied specifically to that race. Who knows, there is a lot of potential here, but I really do think a new Demon Hunter specialization is on the table for either 11.2.5 or 11.2.7. Let's move away from the maybes and look at the actual class changes in this first 11.2 PTR build. Death Knights have some pretty big changes, not only for their specializations, but to the utility they will offer to any group composition. Anti-magic zone has been changed back to a flat magic damage reduction bubble on a 4-minute cooldown, so that's probably going to end up being very powerful on any boss fight that involves heavy AoE damage. The other major change for the class as a whole is that Abomination Limb is being removed entirely, so you won't have access to those free grips quite as often, which the dev notes say was a pretty big problem as it invalidated the power of individual death grips, leading to the design team just making monsters immune to grips as a whole, so it sounds like they're ripping it out because it was simply too strong. Deathbringer had a couple of updates to Exterminate. First Sight will no longer have a chance to apply Reaper's Mark, but it will provide different benefits for Blood and Frost, so this will remove some RNG from the hero talent set. And then Sandlane has a few updates to reduce RNG as well. The Blood Beast will accumulate less damage for both Unholy and Blood, so you won't be getting quite as much damage out of your Blood Beasts. There are new effects being added in for Visceral Strength and Infliction of Sorrow. An Infliction of Sorrow buff will last for 30 seconds, up from 12. Now Frost DK is going to see a bit of a rework. The talent tree has been shifted around quite considerably. Here's a shot of the current live tree compared to the 11.2 PTR talent tree. You can see a lot of talents were removed or have been removed, with some new capstone talents to look forward to. Glacial Advance will now be learned baseline, so you'll always have that AoE option. There are a bunch of new talents which look interesting. Frostbane gives you a chance to transform your next Frost Strike into Frostbane, which deals AoE damage and might save you the trouble of tab targeting your Frost Strikes. There are new talents to let you consume all Killing Streak buffs at once, quite a few options to deal some extra AoE damage. Empower Rune Weapon has been redesigned to deal AoE damage, have 2 charges, and it's got a 30-second cooldown, so that's going to be more like a little damage cooldown that generates some runic power. Breath of Cindergrosa has also been completely redesigned as well. It's now an Empower spell, so you can hold it down to cast it at 3 different levels. The earlier you release the spell, the more instant damage it's going to do, but the shorter the damage over time effect. You'll also reduce the cooldown of it if you cast it early, so it has a base 2-minute cooldown, and you can cut up to 75 seconds off that cooldown depending on how you decide to cast it. So you can either use it as a short burst of damage on a lower cooldown, or a longer sustained bout of damage with a longer cooldown. Then there are several adjustments to existing talents. A lot of runic power costs have been increased, lots of talents that weren't replaced or removed have seen numbers tuning and adjustments. Frostworm's Fury cooldown was cut in half, so that's only going to be a 90-second cooldown now, and then you can see the list of talents that have been removed in this first iteration, and it's quite a lengthy list. Now Unholy is going to see some big changes too. The dev team are working on reducing the number of cooldowns that Unholy has, while adding in some new ways to apply and remove festering wounds. There are some new talents to buff either your diseases or your minions. There's a new talent that lets you detonate your Death and Decay to deal damage and apply festering wounds, which sounds really cool. Abomination Limb has been redesigned for Unholy to deal AoE damage and apply festering wounds to all nearby enemies, but that will be a choice node with Raise Abomination. There are some new effects like Unholy Pact forming a shadowy chain between you and your pet. A couple of talents have been buffed or made into 1-point nodes, some talents have been shifted around in the tree, and quite a few talents have been removed to make space for those new ones that we talked about earlier. So Death Knights will play very differently in patch 11.2 with all of these updates and changes in place. Now moving on, we come to the Druids. Lykara's Meditation has been replaced with Lykara's Inspiration and will provide you different bonuses depending on the current form you're in. Maim had its cooldown increased to 30 seconds, and specializations that are not Guardian will have less threat generation while in bear form. The Wildstalker hero talent tree is seeing some large buffs. Symbiotic Blooms and Bursting Growth Healing has been increased by 50%. Thriving Growth's base chance for Symbiotic Blooms to grow increased by 30%. Twin Sprout's chance to generate additional Bloodseeker Vine or Symbiotic Blooms was increased to 30%, and then for Restoration, Implant also triggers from casts of Wild Growth. Feral has a couple of quick changes too. Brutal Slash is being increased by 25%, and Lykara's Teaching will provide more mastery while in Moonkin form. And then for Restoration, we see the first change to healer cooldowns. The dev team are increasing the power of many healer cooldowns in smaller groups while nerfing them in really large groups, but they should remain about the same power level for groups of 20 players. So Tranquility initial healing was increased by 100%, the heal over time was increased by 200%, but the healing will reduce faster beyond 5 targets. Resto Druids are also getting some visual updates to many of their key spells. Up next we have the Evokers. There are a couple of adjustments to hero talent trees. For Flame Shaper, Engulf damage and healing has been doubled. Engulf now requires the target to have Fire Breath or Dream Breath active. Engulf effectiveness per damage or heal over time effect was nerfed down to 20% from 50%, so that's probably going to offset that baseline buff by quite a bit. And then Fulminous Roar no longer decreases the cooldown of Fire or Dream Breath. And then Scale Commander just has a quick bug fix for Breath of Eons. Augmentation doesn't really have much going on right now, just a tooltip change for Breath of Eons as well. Now, Preservation has a bit more to talk about. They have a few new talents, including one that prevents knockback while casting an Empower spell, so that could be used to avoid certain mechanics in the future. Just in Time has been redesigned. Delay Harm will now absorb some of the damage taken, giving Preservation a better external cooldown. Temporal Artificer reduces the cooldown on Rewind by 90 seconds, up from 60 seconds. Reversion now has 2 charges. Emerald Blossom Healing was buffed. Temporal Anomaly Absorption was doubled, but it will diminish beyond 5 targets much faster. Dreamflight Healing was buffed by 150%, but it's not going to get the same out of raid bonus as it did before, and the healing will now be reduced beyond 5 targets. And then Stasis is now going to be a choice node with Temporal Artificer, so quite a few updates to look forward to for the Evoker healing spec. Hunters made the list this week as well. There's a new talent that increases your pet damage. That'll be a choice node with Explosive Shot, so Beast Mastery will probably pick that up and forget Explosive Shot ever existed. Dark Ranger is getting some big changes as well. Black Arrow damage is being increased, and Bleak Powder can trigger Beast Cleave and Trick Shot, so you can keep your AoE or cleave rotations rolling more comfortably. There are a few damage boosts for different specs, and a few talents have been removed. So Dark Ranger could be more fun to play moving forward. Pack Leader saw a couple of changes too. Shell Cover now increases in effectiveness the lower your health is. Better Together was updated, and Howl of the Pack has an overlay that tells you when it's ready. And then for Sentinel, Lunar Storm now resets the cooldown of Rapid Fire and Wildfire Bomb when it becomes available, which is going to be a really nice change. For Beast Mastery specifically, there are some new talents that cause your Dire Beasts to benefit from Kill Command and Bestial Wrath. Dire Beast is now going to be a passive ability that triggers from your bleed effects. Bloodshed has been redesigned to deal more damage much faster and has a higher chance of summoning Dire Beasts. They're losing their Major Execute damage talent, and it's being replaced by a flat damage increase to Kill Command. Barbed Shot now replaces Steady Shot, and Beast Mastery is losing Barrage, Shower of Blood, and the Venomous Bite talents. And then Marksmanship has some big changes too. Shrapnel Shot has been redesigned to cause Explosive Shot to always trigger lock and load. Precise Shots will now also reduce the global cooldown of affected spells to let you fire things off faster. Several of the talents have been updated or redesigned. Aimed Shot damage has been increased, some talents have been moved around, and a couple have been removed from the tree entirely. And for Survival, Improved Wildfire Bomb has returned. Call the Herd has been redesigned. Wildfire Bomb initial damage was increased by 50%. Ruthless Marauder Tip of the Spear chance to trigger was increased to 100%, Explosives Expert was buffed, and Bloodseeker no longer causes Kill Command to bleed, so a lot of changes for Hunter moving forward. Mages have quite a few changes in this first PTR build as well. Inspired Intellect will provide double the intellect that it previously did, and Time Anomaly has been removed entirely. The Spellslinger hero talent tree also has some quick updates. Spellfrost Teachings has been redesigned to reduce the cooldown of your orb spells more reliably, and Splintering Orb's damage bonus was increased to 25%. For Arcane, their Mastery is being updated, and it looks like buffs across the board, so Mastery should be more impactful in the new patch. Prodigious Savant was updated to provide more damage bonuses to Arcane Blast and Arcane Barrage. Arcane Orb travel speed has been increased, Intuition's duration was increased as well, and a few talents have been shifted around in the talent tree. For Fire, Meteor will now deal more damage to the closest target to the impact location, which is kinda cool, and Hypothermia has been updated to provide more damage bonuses to Pyroblast and Flamestrike. And then we round things out with Frost Mage, who will see a big buff to their Mastery as well. All damage bonuses have been increased by 40%, so that should be a much better stat for Frost as we head into 11.2. Moving on, we come to the monks, and Brewmaster is finally getting some larger changes. There are quite a few new talents that increase the effectiveness of your stagger. There's a new brew option. You can make Tiger Palm reduce the cooldown of brews. Invoke Nazao has been redesigned, and a lot of talents relating to Nazao have been changed as well, with the goal of giving you more consistent uptime of your favorite Celestial Ox, and to make it more impactful when you do have Nazao active. And then Mistweaver will see the same buffs to their healing cooldowns, so Revival and Restoral will both get a 100% buff, but they will rapidly heal less beyond 5 targets. The Paladins are up next, and they have a couple of changes for Holy and Retribution. Holy will see a new talent. Beacon of Light will now only transfer direct healing and Light of Dawn healing, but the transfer amount was increased. Infusion of Light now has a chance to activate on any Holy Shot cast instead of from crits. Divine Favor now reduces mana costs by 100%, but no longer decreases cast times, and then some talents have been shifted around. For Retribution, Divine Hammer is being changed quite significantly. Its cooldown was doubled up to 2 minutes, it lasts for 10 seconds up from 8, but the extra duration you get from spending Holy Power was knocked down to 0.3 seconds from 0.5 seconds, so you won't be able to extend this anywhere near as long, and then the damage was increased by a measly 12%. This will turn Divine Hammer into more of a cooldown based ability instead of something that you can keep up for a really good chunk of time, so we'll have to wait and see if it remains good enough to see more playtime in patch 11.2 or whether these nerfs are just going to kill it as an ability. Then we come to the Priests, who have quite a lot of changes in patch 11.2. The mana cost of Holy Nova is being reduced by a whopping 87%, so you'll be able to spam that way more freely in the next patch. For Discipline specifically, Luminous Barrier Absorption is being doubled, but will reduce rapidly beyond 5 targets. Power Word Shield and Radiance both had their mana costs increased. Ultimate Penitence healing and damage is increased by 35%, and Surge of Light only reduces the mana cost of Flash of Light by 50%, down from 100%. Now for Holy, Divine Hymn healing was doubled as well, but it's going to see the same rapid reduction beyond 5 targets. Apotheosis now only reduces the cost of Holy Words by 50%, down from 100%, and then Heal, Prayer of Healing, Flash Heal, Prayer of Mending, Holy Words Serenity and Sanctify, Renew and Holy Fire all had their mana costs reduced, so both Healing Priest specs will see a lot of changes to how they spend their mana. And then Shadow has seen some very big changes. Mind Spike is being removed, so we're back to relying entirely on Mind Flay and playing around that. Shadow Crash cooldown was reduced to 15 seconds, and you'll get 2 charges now. There are many new talents, including Void Volley, which lets you fire off a volley of Void Bolts after your Void Torrent cast ends, which is really cool. There are other talents that interact with the main staples of Shadow Priest gameplay. A few talents have been redesigned, including Death Speaker and the Idols of Yasaj and Nazoth, and then there's a lot of numbers tuning to things like Insanity Generation, and a lot of abilities had their cooldowns reduced as well. This is shaping up to look really cool, though the lack of an alternative to Mind Flay means you will be stuck channeling for a good chunk of your filler time. Now if Shadow Priest only had some decent movement skills, it could really start to shine. The rogues haven't been entirely left out, though they do only have a quick update to Killing Spree. It's now a channeled ability that unleashes a barrage of gunfire, with its damage and duration being increased per combo point you spend, and it restores combo points when used. You can move and use some abilities while channeling, but you do move a bit slower at the same time. I guess this kind of fixes the problems of Killing Spree teleporting you around randomly and getting you killed by just removing the whole teleporting portion of the spell. Shamans have a couple of updates in this first build as well. For Stormbringer, Tempest stacks now cancel at the start of raid encounters and Mythic Plus dungeons, so you're not going to be able to stockpile those stacks beforehand. Enhancement has a quick update to Thorum's Invocation to let it interact better with Tempest, and then for Restoration, Healing Tide Totem healing is being increased by 100%, but its healing will more rapidly reduce beyond 5 targets. Warlocks haven't been left out either. Corruption now deals damage immediately in its instant cast baseline. The scale of your demon is now consistent across all levels. For Affliction, Xavian Teachings has been removed. That's about all you've got so far, so you may see some more changes in future PTR builds that aren't just removing things. Demonology has a few more changes to talk about though. Master Summoner has been redesigned and added into the PvE talent tree, and it will reduce the cast time of various summon demon spells, so that's kinda cool. Several talents have been updated. Demonic Tyrant only empowers 5 wild imps now, but the damage increase was buffed up. There are a couple of other buffs for Immutable Hatred, Demonic Brutality and Improved Demonic Tactics, and then Guillotine and Reign of Tyranny were both removed. And for Destruction, down at the bottom, Inferno is being removed because it's just too powerful. So hopefully we see some future updates to Destruction to kinda offset that loss in a future PTR build. And then last but not least, we come to the warriors. There are a couple of quick updates to Hamstring and Berserker Rage, but the vast majority of the updates in this first build are going to be for protection warriors. Their talent tree has been shifted around quite dramatically. Here's a comparison of their live tree on the left with the patch 11.2 tree on the right. So quite a lot of talents have been removed, a lot of talents have been shifted around in the tree, and there are lots of new talents to play around with. There are talents that can proc free Ravagers, a bunch of options to reduce your incoming damage, a lot of other talents have been updated or adjusted. Tough as Nails now deals damage every time you block and has no internal cooldown, so that's kind of interesting. One of the changes a lot of players don't seem to like is that spell block is being removed, and the dev notes basically say they're getting rid of it because it's too hard to use and it required a lot of knowledge to use it effectively, so they're kind of calling us bad. But we'll see a few passive talents that try to deal with magic damage in a similar way. But that's all of the huge class changes and updates we have for the first PTR build of patch 11.2 and what we know so far of this mysterious new Demon Hunter specialization. So that's it for this video. How do you feel about the class changes from what you've seen so far? Are there any classes or specs you feel need a lot of attention as we head into patch 11.2? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can find links in the description or click the join button just below the video. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful in any way, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you're always kept up to date. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.